This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. This season is miserable right now. It's miserable for me watching it. It's miserable for you watching it. It's miserable from the standpoint of the Browns' record. Absolutely a miserable record right now. 1-4 to start the season. This is a team that legitimately thought that they had Super Bowl contender expectations. It sounds silly to say, but 6 weeks ago, we really thought that that could be a possibility for this team. This team stinks. But they're worse than this, just stinking, right? We've dealt with teams that stink before in Cleveland. It hasn't felt this bad. I've seen a lot of people talk about the Cleveland Browns this year and say, hey, man, something feels worse about watching this year than the 0-16 and the 1-15 year. And I think I put my finger on it. This shit is more miserable than those years because there's no young player to track the development of. You're not looking at this team as a team that's supposed to achieve promise later. This is a team that's supposed to achieve promise now. And look, I done talked about this game as an analyst. I done broke this game down. I'm going to get the film and I'm going to break it down later today, right? Like, we're going to do all of this. But I really just want to talk to y'all as a Browns fan right now, as a person, just like people to people right now, because I'm so fed up with the Browns this season. And it's just such a miserable watch right now. Like, the Browns are just a miserable football team right now. They're miserable to watch. And look, when I watch them play, I don't think that anybody's having a good time while playing for this team. Like, this team feels like they're even miserable. And I think that has a lot of layers to it. You've put this team through a lot in the hopes of Deshaun Watson being a franchise quarterback. Not just a lot with hoping that Watson plays well as a football player, but look what you've asked this team to juggle mentally. Everything that comes with Deshaun Watson. Everything that's associated with Deshaun Watson, everything that they then become associated with because they're associated with Deshaun Watson. All the landmines that everybody on this team has had to avoid the last 3 years, not just because of Watson's play, but because of what Watson is known for outside of the football field. You've put that pressure, if you're the Cleveland Browns, in that locker room in the hopes of Watson being a franchise quarterback. You put that pressure on the fan base in the hopes of Watson being a franchise quarterback. Because it's not Jimmy Haslam. It's not Andrew Berry. It's not Kevin Stefanski or any of the principal people in charge that made the decision to trade for Deshaun Watson that have to deal with the scorn that you get because your team employs Deshaun Watson. No. Regular people like me and you are the ones who have to deal with that, are the ones who have to see this brand, the Cleveland Browns, that we love, get associated with Deshaun Watson and everything he's been associated with off the field, all in the hopes of getting a franchise quarterback. And then he plays. He stinks. Sometimes he was above average, but he was never great. And then this season comes around, and he's worse than he's ever been in a Cleveland Browns uniform. 3 of the worst games all season all belong to Deshaun Watson. We have bared the brunt of all of the burden that comes with Deshaun Watson as fans. The people in that locker room have bared the brunt of all the burden that comes with having him as a teammate and being associated with him professionally. For what? That's why this shit feels miserable. That's why a lot of us don't even care if Jameis Winston would make the team better at this point. It's just going to make us feel better while we watch this damn game. Because at least if Jameis Winston is out here throwing for 100 yards on 35 passing attempts, if that's what Jameis Winston is out here doing, you know what? We don't got to explain morally why it is that he's doing it. We don't have to justify something that we don't want to justify for Jameis Winston to be out here doing it. And maybe some of y'all don't care about what Watson was charged with off the field. Maybe some of y'all do care. But I'm going to be honest, it's taking its toll on a lot of people. The Browns, through this era with Deshaun Watson, have asked a lot from the people on this team and the people who root for this team over the last 3 years. So yeah, people are furious that after asking for that much, after dealing with the brunt of all of this team stinks. And it's not just that they stink. The dude that we're doing all of this for, the dude that we're having to take all this garbage in for, he's the root of the stench. And because you put so much into him, you can't even get rid of the stench when it starts stinking. That's why people are furious. That's why this year is miserable. That's why people want to play Jameis Winston. I don't blame them. People are tired of this. They're tired of the Watson era. They're tired of watching Deshaun Watson play football. They've run out of hope that Deshaun Watson is ever going to look like Deshaun Watson. We're just sick of it. Like Browns fans, for the most part, are just sick of it. We don't believe in it anymore. We don't think that there's any upside to it anymore. It's never been worth it. It never was going to be worth it from a moral standpoint, and it's most certainly not even close to touching worth it now. So if you want to know why this season has felt more miserable than other seasons, because Deshaun Kaiser was just a bad quarterback. Tyrod Taylor just had a bad year. Jake Delhomme was just cooked. We're not dealing with just a bad quarterback, just a cooked quarterback, or even just a expensive quarterback. It's everything else that you have to deal with Watson too. I've been a Browns fan since I can remember. I remember growing up watching Phil Dawson kick that extra point versus the Baltimore Ravens in 2004. The Browns went up 20-3. They won the home opener that year against the Ravens. I remember thinking to myself, yeah, being a Browns fan is going to be easy. Yeah, didn't end up that way. But you know, I've stuck with the team and I found my reasons for loving this team. I've talked about it. And yeah, I'm going to be a Browns fan. I'm going to watch on Sundays. I'm going to continue to talk about the Browns all week. But this team is miserable. This season is miserable. And yeah, is the offensive line great? No. But I could deal with a bad offensive line. I've dealt with it before. Is the offensive coordinator doing a great job? I don't think so, but I could deal with that. I've dealt with a bad offensive coordinator before. It never made me miserable. The offense is old. The wide receivers aren't playing great. Like, yeah, there's some individual efforts on this team that aren't the best. But that's not what makes this season miserable. We could get better defensive effort. We could have more heart from the defense, all of this stuff. But what makes this season miserable is the quarterback. Everything that we've dealt with, all the baggage that this quarterback has brought to this franchise, all the dirt that's going to be smeared on the name of this franchise. For what? For some of the most uninteresting, unentertaining, uninspiring quarterback play we've seen in 2024. And look, I understand this is the NFL we're talking about. It's a pretty immoral business. Every team, if you dig deep enough, has a horrible history underneath it, or have employed some pretty terrible people at any point in time. I'm not naive. I know the NFL is not a super moral business and that we shouldn't expect the ultimate of morality from the businesses that operate underneath the shield of the NFL. I'm no fool. But that still doesn't change the fact that when you bring Deshaun Watson in and he's charged with 30 plus cases of sexual assault, that's a burden that your fans have to carry. Jimmy Haslam is not on Twitter arguing about this. Jimmy Haslam is not being accused of being things that he's not, or even having to deal with it. He's protected from all of it. He's a billionaire. He's far away from all of this garbage, right? Same thing's true with Deshaun Watson. Same thing's true with Kevin and AB. They don't have to deal with that. But Browns fans have. Browns fans have had to deal with their reputations being put in the dirt, with people associating them with this, with associating them with defending the things that Deshaun Watson has been accused of. This is a burden that Browns fans have had to bear. So when they boo at the stadium because the quarterback who put this baggage on them can't even live up to his end of the deal, a $230 million deal, yeah, you damn right they're allowed to boo. If they leave the stadium early because they don't feel like watching this dude play quarterback anymore, because he's not holding up his end of the deal after Browns fans have dealt with this for the last 3 years, then you're damn right they should leave. Browns fans are fed up right now. And look, some of us have held on to hope that one day maybe this deal will be semi-worth it. But I don't think anybody has that hope anymore. And I don't know what that's going to do to the fan base. The only thing I know right now is that the fan base is unified, that this dude ain't it. And the question is, who should go down with him? We're not arguing about if Watson's good or not anymore. We're not arguing about if this trade was a good idea or not anymore. We're arguing about, hey, does Kevin AB go down with him? How long do you keep him out there? How long can you justify having him be the starting quarterback? I'm going to tell you this right now. Kevin Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and Jimmy Haslam. I don't think you've ever watched any of my videos, but if there was a clip I've ever wanted to get in front of your eyes, this is it. So if we can find a way to get this video in front of the eyes of one of these three people, I need this part in particular to be in front of them. You got to read the room here. This is not just about what's going on in that locker room. This is not just about what should or should not happen via a statistical model with Deshaun Watson. This is affecting people, and the situation has become untenable. Do not bring Deshaun Watson back to start for another game in Cleveland. I don't think it's going to go the way you want it. You're going to have an anti-home field advantage. You're going to have an audience on hand for a division game that just knows something's going to go wrong. And I think we play the Cincinnati Bengals at home. Like, the fact that we're not even thinking about the advantage historically we've had over the Cincinnati Bengals in the Stefanski era in a home game, because we just know what's going to happen with the quarterback position, tells you everything you need to know about how much of this team's identity has been drained from Deshaun Watson. I understand that you had a plan. I understand the Browns have a plan with Deshaun Watson. And maybe you had a contingency plan and you want to stick to that plan, but you got to read the room. This experiment cannot last any longer. And if you continue this experiment longer than people want it to last, you're going to go down with that experiment. You got to see this for what it is, man. You got to see this for what it is. It does not matter what Watson does against Philadelphia. The Browns could win that game. It doesn't matter. He's lost the fans. It's over. He's not winning them back. Even if he has a good stretch of 5 games here, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to want this thing to last longer. People are over it. It's done. Don't waste time hoping that this works out when nobody wants it to. I don't believe that locker room wants this to work out. I don't believe the fans want it to work out. And sometimes I question whether Kevin wants it to work out because he's far more capable of a coach than it looks like he is when Deshaun Watson's out there. It's like Deshaun Watson touches that football, gets on the field, and all of a sudden Kevin becomes a completely different coach. But anybody else is out there, Kevin's having a good-ass time, calling good-ass plays, cooking up good-ass schemes. Like, do you even want this to work? Have you even evaluated if this is something you want to work, Kevin? What about you, AB? This ain't been your best work the last 2 years. Who really wants this to work anymore? Serious question in the audience. Do you want this to work? Even if it could be salvaged? Would you want it salvaged? Do you want to deal with this longer? Once you're at that point, man, there's only one thing to do. Let it go. And this ain't even just about football. It's about everything else that this city has been forced to deal with and forced to be associated with for this quarterback. And the level of play, I mean, would get anybody benched, let alone not worth it. This game was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that back is strong. We're talking about Browns fans here. Browns fans have dealt with a lot and were willing to deal with a lot. And you know what? Dealt with a lot when it came to Deshaun. Hung on with a lot when it came to Deshaun. Because the whole idea of dealing with all of this garbage with Deshaun Watson to bring him in to play quarterback was that he'd be worth the baggage that he brings. Well, he's not been worth the baggage that he brings. He's not even come close to being neutral to his baggage. He's been a net negative. And if that's the case, what the f are we doing here with him?